let's see. It says we're live. So I'm assuming that we are in fact live. I have to see. All right, we are live. Very quick today. So welcome everybody. How are you doing? I'm glad you're tuning in. Wasn't around yesterday, and I'll get a little bit more into that today. But favor to everyone. I just speak favor over everyone's lives. And may you be in a good state of consciousness. And yes, I'm doing several things at the same time, but hey, you know what? I can also ride my bike with no hands. So how about that? So I have my special guest. Tried to get Ryder on about a month ago, and my dad then passed over, and there was just a number of things, and was going to have him on yesterday, and I'll tell you why I wasn't on yesterday. So today we're going to be with our good friend, Ryder Lee from Raised by Giants. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing great, Wayne. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to come back on. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, like you said, we've been planning this for over a month now, but
Yeah,
life happens.
it
Life
does.
happens,
It does.
and
It's success of life is
uh,
flexibility and being able to either bend or adjust to unexpected circumstances, as they would say.
right, like Bruce Lee says, flow like water. That's
That's it. I like what John Candy said in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He says, as the mighty river flows, that's how I go. So, John Candy, wherever you are in the multiverse, we wish you well. Everyone, so tonight, I just want to get this out because we're going to do a shortened program today, and I'll tell you why. Artistfirst.com, 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. My time in the mountains here. The Steiger perspective, tune in. Glad I got it in before I got whatever I've gotten. And so check out the Steiger perspective. Actually, the theme tonight is at what point, and you're going to love it. So, why I wasn't on yesterday, oddly enough, Tuesday afternoon, I had an encounter with a group of people. And oddly enough, we were talking about who had been, taken the jab and who hadn't. And it was kind of interesting. So it was like kind of a 4-3. And now everyone was wearing the mask and all of that. Listen, if I'd had a hazmat suit, I'd have worn it. But oddly enough, after I got out of that meeting, it was about 8 hours later. No, maybe about 12. Yeah, come to think about it, it was 12. I woke up in the middle of the night really sick. I mean, really sick. And I know what sick is like. And, I'm still recovering from it. The sensitivity of light is very difficult for me to even sit here with the lights on. And the headaches, that's the one thing. And I am well versed with headaches. Having spinal meningitis, I can tell you, I know what headaches are about. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything going on here. What was interesting, there was another person in the same environment, same meeting, who came down with the same symptoms. So I don't know. So we're probably going to take this to the bottom of the hour. So Marsha says, I wear a hazmat coat and mask around the show. This is true. You really do, Marsha. So much love to everyone. Big Al, I didn't know if you were driving, so I didn't return your text. But the other problem was even looking at your cell phone, the light sensitivity, and that has been a problem. It was one of the things that I had to recover from both the Lyme and the meningitis at the same time. So anyway, that's what it is. So thank you, moderators, all of you. Appreciate it. Everyone else in the chat room. I won't be on tomorrow, but expect something maybe over the weekend. It just depends. I just want to get over what this is. So, Ryder, welcome. You and I have talked, and this is a topic that I find very relevant because I think that it may, in fact, be more true than anything else. Is that we actually are nothing more than a simulation. We are what they would call an active player in a predetermined, pre-programmed, destined simulation. And when the simulation runs out, it really reverts back again. So that is kind of the approach that I see it. And I know that you had an epiphany on this. So talk to us. Tell us what you've come up with, and we're ready.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wayne. So, yeah, you're completely right. And before we get started, I would just kind of like to give a little context for how this presentation came about, because I really feel like it's fitting that I'm sharing it on your show, Wayne, because some of you that are watching may know Wayne was on my channel, Raised by Giants, a few months back, and I feel like we had a stellar conversation about religion and the occult. If you haven't seen that, check it out. But when we were done, Wayne, when I stood up, I got super like lightheaded, and I thought that was odd because I don't normally ever feel that way. So I went and laid down in my bed and I kind of, meditated for a bit and kind of asked the spirits to come through. And nothing, really happened until, later that night when I received this information through what I can only explain as a download or epiphany, a knowing maybe, but I received an answer to a question that I didn't even really know that I had, and the rest kind of unfolded from there.
Interesting. Those are the most impactful moments. When I think that you're connected directly to, you can call it source, you can call it the Akashic record, you can call it whatever it is, but I think individuals have that happen to us, and unfortunately most never pay attention to it, or two, actually write it down or put anything to it. And I'm gathering you did both.
Yeah, I actually worked on it for like a month, and there's some pictures and things in there, but mostly the presentation I'm just going to kind of be, reading, so you guys can listen, watch, whatever is best for you. But I really suggest people listen very closely. I'm putting out the intention for everyone that watches or listening to this, that they remember that this presentation triggers some kind of memories for everyone. I think that that's the reason I believe I was given this information. So please watch or listen or however with an open mind, and follow along closely and use your discernment, please. And any questions you might have, put them in the comments, because I know we're not going for an entire hour today, but put them in the
I've
comments.
left your contact information there for your channel. Subscribe if you haven't. This is the new and upcoming talent of the Soul Tribe. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Wayne. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation too, just don't hesitate to ask them. Or if you think
I'll watch the chat room. The way I feel about right now, it's about the best I can give you. So take it away, my friend.
Awesome. Again, this is a lot of information packed in to a very short period of time. It's probably going to be like 20-25 minutes, and I can kind of get on a roll with the presentation because it's really exciting for me. So let me get this thing going here. Screen share. Okay. Can you see that, Wayne?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So this was the first question that kind of sparked in my brain when I first received this information. What would happen if you all of a sudden knew all of the information in the universe all at once as the physical being you're currently inhabiting? So welcome to Exiting the Simulation, Returning the Source. So I'm going to kind of start this off by referencing some stories from the Bible to explain what's going on. So just so we're all on the same page. So we all know the story of Adam and Eve, right? They eat the apple in the garden that God forbid them to eat, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So the Bible calls it in Genesis 3:3, it says, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, or you must not touch it, or you will die. So we know that the forbidden tree is just awareness and knowledge, but awareness and knowledge of what? It was made out in the Bible that Adam and Eve just realized that they were naked, so they clothed themselves, and that was the introduction of sin, and that they were kicked out of the garden because they were corrupted, and that's really the end of it. We know sin was invented by the church as a means of control, but what if there's more to the story that's kind of been left out? What if the apple isn't an apple at all? It's a place. And this place holds all of the knowledge of the universe. So we know that the Bible is mostly metaphorical and isn't meant to be taken literally, though that doesn't mean there isn't clues to actual real stories hidden in there. You just have to be able to read between the lines, which is exactly what I think is going on with the Adam and Eve story and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But first, let's take a look at some other familiar stories in the Bible that are similar in nature, like the story of Saul. In Acts 9:8-9, it says, Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, neither did eat nor drink. See, the story of Saul is very interesting in saying that God or Jesus blinded him, meaning that if we were just as much look at God, we would be blinded. For what, though, and how? Which brings us to our next story, which is the story of Moses. In Exodus 33:20, it says, but he said, you cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live. This verse, of course, comes from when Moses was on top of Mount Sinai getting ready to receive the Ten Commandments. So it's strange. Either God is really shy and has social issues. If people dare to look at him, they go blind or die. But what I think is more plausible, Wayne, is that this isn't God at all in these stories. It's something else. And here's a very popular story because it involves a very important historic relic, which is the Ark of the Covenant. So in 1 Samuel 6:19, it says, but God struck down some of the men of Beth-shemesh, putting 70 of them to death because they had looked into the ark of the Lord, and the people mourned because of the heavy blow the Lord had dealt them. So we have all these people in the Bible going blind from just seeing the light of God, and the verse saying no one can even look at God without going blind or dying. And we have the story of the ark where God killed many people for just looking inside or touching it. And I think this God that is making people go blind and killing them if they look directly at him isn't God at all. It's the source itself. So to get a better idea of what's happening, we kind of have to go back to ancient history, the Anunnaki gods. So we know the Bible was written based on the ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets, and the Sumerian gods had a very similar story to Adam and Eve, or they seem to kind of run parallel to each other, which a lot of the stories in the Bible run parallel to the ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets. But see, these Sumerian gods were genetically engineered just like us. Though they were the perfect human hybrids that surpassed even their creator in all ways. See, Enki, the Sumerian god, thought he was so powerful, strong, and knew everything that he could go to this liminal place that gods were forbidden to go to, a off limits zone, because you guessed it, if you did, you would die. So Enki ventured to this forbidden place, but he ended up surviving, just like Adam and Eve when God told them they would die from eating the apple. But when Enki made it back from this off-limit zone, he was corrupted. Sounds familiar, right? But I think he truly found out what we are, who we are, and what we're living in. And this knowledge broke him, just like the knowledge of good and evil did Adam and Eve. See, I contend this liminal forbidden place that Enki went to was pure source, and our minds aren't meant to handle all of the information in the universe at one time. Because that's what I feel source is, Wayne, is it's just information, like constantly processing, like the motherboard of a computer. So a human trying to take on all that information at once would kind of overload us, and it would start to break down and fracture and burn our brains in not a good way. I'm sure people, Wayne, that's taken too much acid or ate too many shrooms, and they're just completely burnt out, but I'm sure even if you don't know someone personally, you know someone that knows someone that's happened to, that they are just not functioning on all levels, like the wiring in their brain just isn't hitting on all fours. So, but that kind of awareness doesn't even register on the kind of awareness that source would have. So it would start to break and fracture our minds because our brains don't have the processing power required to handle it. And it would short circuit our neural networks because source lives outside of this virtual simulation and is more than likely the source of the simulation itself, hence the name source. See, we can talk about some of these concepts and that we live in a simulation and all, but actually encompassing it and seeing it for yourself would likely change you forever. Imagine being in a place, Wayne, where time and space doesn't exist. You have no reference for anything because there isn't anything. It's just pure white and it's infinite. It's nothing but everything at the same time. Just trying to wrap your mind around that very concept would almost start to break it. I don't think that we could even begin to process it with the limited capacity that our brains have now, let alone the brain capacity of a god like Enki using 100% of his. But I believe this event started the uprising of the Anunnaki gods and the ET wars and the eventual quarantine of the planet. I am under the impression that this event kicked off the genetic wars, and the war had really big ramifications for everyone on Earth. Even the gods, when they were defeated by the creator ETs, they placed a trap over the planet, a planetary quarantine, if you will, to keep these gods contained in a never-ending reincarnation cycle that we are still living in to this day. So we'd be dumbed down through every incarnation. Our memories would be wiped and effectively making it to where we could never rise up again. When I'm sure you've heard a lot of people listening, and I'm sure you've heard Wayne, when people talk about a prison planet, that's what they're talking about when they mean a prison planet. So Earth then became a dumping ground for all kinds of different races of beings, beings that were too difficult to handle and deemed a product of a failed science experiment. This is where I think a lot of problems arise, and why we can't seem to get along is because none of us are indigenous to Earth, and our souls have been fractured out, living up to 12 incarnations simultaneously, making it to where we don't know who we are, where we're from, or what we're even doing here. This in turn creates a lot of problems. Because of this, many of us suffer from depression, abandonment issues, anxiety, and go through our entire lives never knowing why, but always feeling like something is off and missing in the very core of our being, an emptiness in our soul, that feeling like something just isn't quite right, but we can't exactly put our finger on it. The good news is I believe that this reincarnation trap is about to be lifted, or has already been lifted, but more on that later. See, Wayne, I think that this is a very big problem that many of us face today. And I think that a lot of the human conditions that we find ourselves in stems from us not knowing who we are. Because if you ask the average person who they are, they're going to give you their name, age, where they live, who their parents are, but that's not really who you are, is it? It's that's an illusionary identity given to you at birth, one that your parents gave to you that you're constantly holding on to and trying to live up to. So failing to understand who you are as a spiritual being gets us totally locked in to a physical reality and a physical world, constantly letting things outside of ourselves control us. So after being shown that the apple in the garden was just source itself, or a fragment of source, and people being blinded by God and killed by God for just being in the presence of him was also the same thing. And then realizing that Inky was trying to integrate with source and couldn't do it really got me thinking, what would be the ultimate purpose of a machine or AI? Why would we want to fuse with technology? Elon Musk talking about his Neuralink implants. What's the real reason for that? Besides wanting to live forever and updating your consciousness to a cloud and all that. Well, what do robots do? Well, they process information. So this is the Neuralink implant that Elon Musk wants to put in our brains. And these are a few quotes that he's stated about the Neuralink implants. We can save and replay memories. The future is going to be wild. It's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. Well, why do people wear a Fitbit? Or why would they want a Fitbit in their skull? Well, it's to give them information. See, I contend the reason for wanting to merge with technology is processing power. This is why the ETs are so obsessed with technology, and in turn, why we are so obsessed with technology. It's because they know source is all encompassing, all knowing, limitless, infinite, and never ending, that no physical being could ever possibly process all of it and live. So the only way to integrate with it and become the ultimate God is to increase the processing power of the brain. And what's the fastest way to do this? Well, merging with technology, of course. So, what if the only way to escape this reality and integrate with Source, because it exists outside of the simulation, but again, it's too much for anyone to handle without being severely damaged or corrupted like Inky was? This is why I believe the Forbidden Zone was off limits, because no one has ever been able to do it. So again, what would happen if you all of a sudden knew all of the information in the universe all at once as the physical being you're currently inhabiting? Would you be able to handle it? Let's say, for argument's sake, you could possibly handle all of the information in the universe at one time and integrate with Source. Well, then what? What do you do then when you've become the source of the simulation itself? So this brings us back to the reincarnation cycle that's been placed here on Earth. This false light matrix reality. I actually had a dream about this whenever I was listening to one of your shows, Wayne, about the Project Bluebeam shows that you did, and I'm pretty sure I actually sent you an email about this this dream that I had, and it was super profound, because it wasn't just a false light. It was actually an artificial intelligence program capturing and tethering our consciousness to it and distributing it as it sees fit. It was designed to create complete control here and after death, picking and choosing where we go without any reason or repercussions. Imagine being able to decide who comes and who goes. You could effectively know when, where, and who is going to be reincarnated at any given moment. But like I mentioned earlier, this reincarnation trap has been here for thousands of years to keep these gods, which is us, that are essentially the perfect physical beings ever created, from rising up again. So that would mean that everyone that was here on the planet at that time has been caught in this trap. Because I'm sure everyone listening, and I'm sure Wayne, that we've met someone in our life before, and it felt like deep down you knew them, right? Like on a soul level, but you never met them physically before. You just have a really strong connection with them. Could be a person you met on the street, could be someone you see and listen to on the internet, see on TV, whatever it may be. But a familiarity exists between you, like you know them from somewhere. Well, that's because you do know them. You just don't remember, right? Meaning that the people that were here back then are still here now, mixed in with all of the new souls that's been brought in. This, I feel, is also an explanation for deja vu, where it seems like we remember for a split second, right? I'm sure everyone that's listening, and I'm sure, Wayne, that you've had deja vu. And it's weird because it's like you're not really able to fully process it, but it's kind of like a memory, right? And it's here 1 second and it's gone the next. I think that these are glimpses of the past, present, and future coalescing into one specific moment, and we remember. So up until this point, very few brand new souls actually come to the planet. Because, like I stated earlier, after this quarantine trap was placed on the planet, this became a dumping ground, not meant for first timers. There's only a few reasons for you to be here. You either got stuck here, you got captured and brought here, you're a threat to the system, or a clone or cyborg. Though now, yes, clones and cyborgs exist. Though now we are entering into the age of Aquarius, and this is the time for some of us to escape this reincarnation trap and ascend. Do you have any questions, Wayne, before I get into this last and final topic? How are people doing in the chat?
I don't think it's going good. I can tell you, they're throttling down the connection. That's what I'm monitoring right now. So apparently, whoever is the controllers ain't liking this. So let's continue on.
Awesome. So this gets us into the next topic, last and final topic, which is ascension. What is ascension? What does ascension even mean? See, there's a lot of confusion and misconceptions about ascension. We have people talking about a physical ascension, that we're going to ascend in our physical bodies into a new earth, 5D frequency, and the earth is going to split from a 3D earth to a 5D earth, and the only ones with the highest of integrity and morality, make it to this new earth, and the rest stay behind in the old 3D earth. It's all very confusing, and I don't think anyone teaching this concept has any idea what they're talking about. See, I never really resonated with the concept of a physical ascension. I was kind of forced a little bit on the bandwagon because a lot of people were talking about it, and I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, but it doesn't really make any sense. So this physical ascension concept is really mystical and golden age type of stuff, which would be fine if it were true, though they do have some aspects of it right. I think it's just been misinterpreted. Remember when I said earlier that the reincarnation quarantine trap has been lifted or is going to be lifted? Well, that's what ascension is. And I hate to burst people's bubbles, but there is no physical ascension. The real and true ascension is an after death ascension. Think about it. We are the perfect beings, right? Descended from the gods. We are source itself, here to experience its own creation and play the game to remember, with the ultimate goal of integrating back with it. Why would we need an upgrade? We've just been stuck in this reincarnation trap for thousands of years, Wayne, and we have just forgotten. This is something the dark side has known for a long time, and they've done everything in their power to stop. What has 2020 basically been all about? It's been about self-quarantine and self-isolation, right? Because they don't want us to ascend. They want us stuck here, Wayne, quarantined on the planet for another 2,000 years, or however long an incarnation lasts, until another new age rolls around and we have the opportunity to escape again. They know this reincarnation trap has been lifted, and the only way they can keep us here is by self-imposing it upon us, and by making us give our consent for it to happen. and making us think that it's our idea. Whether or not the self-quarantine was voluntary or forced, it doesn't matter. You still consented. But regardless, it's time for us to awaken and remember busting through and ascending out of this self-imposed darkness. See, that's how the dark side gets away with all of these psychological ops, Wayne, is making us think that it's our idea under the guise of something everyone can get behind. Right. I think that this gives quarantine a whole other meaning, right? But our time is coming, Wayne. The mission is about to be over. And this is why a lot of people are talking about ascension, is because now is our opportunity to get out of this trap. The message has just been misinterpreted as a physical ascension when it's not physical at all. It's spiritual or astral. A lot of us are tired, exhausted. Our souls have been put through the ringer. We've been used and abused. It's time for us to go home and rest. Mission accomplished.
I like this. I have a lot of comments on this. Of course, I think, by the way, it was a exceptional presentation. Enjoyed that. Lot to really think about. You know, number one, you know, we get to Enki in Yale. That's a story I think that is a plant, because if you take the knowledge back to the Indus Valley, we never hear of those two. What we hear is more of the Chinese to the Hindu legends. And I still contend that potentially the Hindus had it probably right. I think that there was an alien race. I still say they're here. I love the idea of source, because that's one that, you know, you're right. We hear so many different perceptions, definitions, points of view as to what source is. I really like how you approach that. And that the fact that, is the spirit able to absorb ultimate knowledge? The physical body can't. You know,
Nope.
our minds, I think, may have one time had the capacity,
Yep.
but those have been sealed off. I think you would literally go insane.
Yep.
Yep. I think that's why some of the savants and some of the more geniuses of our species, that's what they did. They eventually just went insane, because I think that they were seeing what the real reality is, and it became impossible to verbally communicate it to us.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly what's going on, Wayne. You hit it. You hit the nail on the head there, and that's because if we were even to attempt to take on all of the knowledge of the universe, it would just collapse in upon itself. Because as a physical being, we aren't evolved enough to even handle it. You know, like it would just basically disintegrate us. You know. And that's the reason that I feel that so many of these ETs and other people want to integrate with technology. It's just that their mission has been lost because they've become more machine and more of the technology than an organic life form, right? And they've forgotten what the purpose was even in the beginning to even start to merge with technology.
Ryder, I'm curious to get your point of view on, there is a theory that says, and I actually did a video on this, that humans, sapiens, are really nothing more than an artificial construct. That when we emerge ourselves into this realm, that the bodies that we have are, in essence, we can call them avatars. But the fact is, when you think about it, what do you think about that aspect, that we are, I meditate a lot and I search for the origins of my thought. I really do. I spend a great deal of time seeking where are the origins of my thought. It don't live here, doesn't live here. So where is it coming from? Is it true that man never has an original idea, that everything that man thinks is merely what the thought of another?
Yes, this is how I kind of think about our thoughts, because you're 100% correct in saying that our thoughts do not come from us. They come from an external source, right? They come from outside of
Would
us.
appear.
And I think it's a kind of a frequency thing, because I'm sure you've ran into people, Wayne, that always think the worst in every situation. They always want to go down the worst route, and that's they're tuning into a frequency of lack. They're tuning into a frequency of disharmony, right? But I believe that our thoughts, we can turn it like a dial on a radio station, right? And the higher the frequency that we can turn it to, the more positive thoughts and the more enlightening thoughts and the more connection thoughts that we can receive, right? Because I believe that there's an infinite data field of information just out in the universe that if we can tap into, we can really get the answers to anything that we're seeking, and any kind of knowledge, information that we want to tap into, we can, because it's all out there, because it's all in a frequency. Energy is really transferable, right? Like if I come on here and I'm really hyped and I'm ready to go and I'm like, yeah, Wayne, let's do this. Let's rock out. Let's do this freaking presentation. I got so much good stuff to share with you guys. Yeah. Like people are going to be stoked on that. They're going to be like, heck yeah, bro, let's do it. But if I come in here and I'm just like, yeah, Wayne, I got some things that I kind of want to share. I don't know how it's going to, that's not, the people are going to, they're going to tune into the frequency that you're putting off.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're down in the dumps, then they're going to be down in the dumps. If you're up and happy and you're bubbly and stuff, then they're automatically going to be bubbly, right? Our energy and things imprint in upon our reality, right? Like our environment is a catalyst for the way that we are, and the way that we treat things, and the way that we talk, and the vibration and the way that we speak. Our words carry a certain frequency.
Okay, I can see that. I mean, it's tapping into, again, I think, much like the Akashic record, is that is what one would think about ultimate knowledge. And I personally, in my walk, I have come to the point where, for me personally, I can't believe in a God. There's too many of them, and which tells me that all of them are of a fraudulent source. Um, if you are, in fact, the ultimate being, you don't need worshipers, you don't need laws, you don't need regulations. Like you said, Yahweh is a mean son of a bitch, and that's all I can say. And I've had a trifle with some individuals, because I put out there that the illusion of Christianity is the illusion within itself, because the Bible does not name a Christian God. So what God is being worshiped here? And everyone gets back to this Christo crap. And I'm going, so well, wait a minute. You've brought this Christ into the form of an imaginary being, Jesus, that you can't identify who or what God he is talking about. But then you go back and revert and say, well, no, it's the Jewish God. That is a fallacy. It's a lie. As I told the one person, it's a goddamn lie. So the question I put out there for us, and this is part of this awakening, then what God is Christianity worshiping? Where did this God come from? And please, will you tell me where in the Bible is its name? And I use the F word because it's one of the things that, Ryder, I see holding us back as a collective. Humanity, sapiens, have a collective consciousness, and it's been basically corrupted. It's been infected by a false perception that has perpetuated itself to where now I think that our sapiens are on the brink of extinction. Excuse me,
Yes.
that was my opinion, and that was just my rant.
Yes, 100%, Wayne. You're so correct. And I think that a lot of people are worshiping gods and people in the Bible. There's multiple gods in the Bible. It's not just
Many of
one
them.
God. There's several,
Many
right?
of them, yeah.
And they have people worshiping gods that they have no idea that they're worshiping. I think that a big one that they're worshiping is actually Marduk, right? Because
Mhm.
Marduk is known as Ra, right? And Amen Ra is who you're sending your praise and thanks to whenever you say amen at the end of your prayer. You're giving your praise and your thanks to an Egyptian sun god, which is actually just another god disguised as another god.
It's like what was the game, what was that game? Multiple squares, it's like what's my gig?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I may be set, I always thought that the last Tom Cruise movie that he did of The Mummy was probably one of the more accurate depictions of what set was. But you're right. They're all coming back from previous gods that I've yet to meet one or have ever any evidence of one ever manifesting before all humanity. So your hypothesis would be absolutely correct that ascension would not be a physical manifestation. It would, in fact, be the energy of what drives the manifestation, which is a spiritual one, which doesn't need religion as a guidance.
Yes. Yes. This is why I wanted to come on your show, Wayne, because I knew that you would have great comments. So the ascension part of this is very, I'm sure, controversial, and a big reason why that people probably don't want to hear it, right? Because the dark side and the archonic consciousness, the parasite consciousness, whoever, has gotten people to believe in a physical ascension by putting out disinformation, by
Well, that's what the
confusing.
Christians believe, the rapture. That
Yes.
is their physical ascension.
Yeah, well, the rapture was actually inserted into the Bible.
Right, absolutely. But still, the belief is now infected
Yeah.
how many countless hundreds of generations?
Yes, 100%. And I think that because if you Google the term, ascension, then you're going to get a definition that talks about Christ and how on the fourth day he ascended. And I'm not saying there's a bunch of debate on if Jesus existed. Blah, blah, blah. Obviously, we know that Jesus wasn't his name. If he actually was here, his name wasn't Jesus. And if he was the Son of God, it doesn't really matter. But I'm just referring to him as Jesus because that's what everyone kind of knows him
Sure,
by.
that's the nomenclature that
Yeah.
we use in our vernacular. So
Yes.
absolutely.
So if Jesus did exist, in which debatable if he did, but if he did, I believe that he came with the knowledge to get us out of this quarantined reincarnation trap, right? He gave us the tools to actually be able to physically ascend, right? And they hijacked that and they turned it into this worshiping of this man, this being, right? Because they don't want us to get off of this planet, Wayne. They want us stuck here forever. Because we're easily taken advantage of, Wayne, when we don't know where we're from, where we don't know who we are, when we don't know what we're doing here. We're easily controlled and easily manipulated. Why would they want to give that up when they can control and manipulate everyone based on the fact that they don't know and they don't remember? They don't have any recollection of their past lives at all. You know, and I think that that's what Jesus, or whatever his name is again, was trying to come down here and teach us, right? Is the way to get
So
out.
let me just expand upon that thought then, because what you're describing is a traitor. I mean, if you want to take the Christ consciousness, it's a traitor's consciousness. Because if it's serving the real God, then why the hell is it down here trying to tell us get out of the trap that this God made? So, you know, isn't that odd? Then we take the traitor mentality, and then Christ becomes Lucifer, because
Yes.
Lucifer was the betrayer, but yet Lucifer was all wisdom, was the light. So this is how the whole mind trap becomes. And I think this is where the archon of confusion holds its throne, because the archon of confusion is master of this dominion. Because it's much like Alexander the Great. You know, his whole belief in Hellenism was, you can believe whatever the hell you want. It's fine. You know, come on in, because we're going to absorb you into our belief system anyway. And so now I'm thinking about the freaking Borg. You know, resistance is futile. You know, your simulation of your experience will be added to our collective consciousness.
Yes. 100%. And you're right about the Jesus being inverted, because everything in our reality has been inverted, Wayne. Up is down, down is up, right
Right?
is left, left is right. The symbols, the symbology, all of it has been turned upside down and hijacked and reversed and turned against us, so we don't have any idea what any of it means.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how I see us. You know, I struggle here lately, because I think we're this close, but that becomes the problem. Every time we come this close, they reset and they change the rules. And it throws everyone into a spin. And we find ourselves back into the washing machine being recycled through. And when they put us into the dryer, we are wiped, baby, you know. And it's much like you said, yeah, we all have met those whom we've loved, who have been a part of us in a spiritual sense, not a physical sense. But when we meet them in these incarnations, that's the pain, that's the loss, that's the confusion. I know you, but I am with this, but I sense in some, and this is what happens. And they do their best to keep that separation as much as they can, at least by 6 degrees.
Yes, that's exactly what they do, because they don't want us to remember. They don't want us to unlock the our memories, because that makes us 10 times more likely, or 100 times more likely, to be recycled right back onto the
Yeah.
earth.
Oh, I think about it quite often. I think about my dad, who's just recently passed, and you know, I don't know where he stood. We weren't that close. And it was a shame, because anytime I tried to talk to him about matters of other realms, spirituality, he was very opposed to that. So, but he was also very afraid of death. And, I meditate on it a lot, because if you're really afraid of death, then that what tells me is that you are doomed to come back here, because you're afraid of death, of being physically separated from the physical realm. And you haven't understood that you're only a visitor here, that you should not be afraid. You should be actually welcoming the point. Have your party ready to go, whether you happened at 50 or whether it happens at 100.
Yeah, I think yeah, you're right. The only part that I'm not afraid of actually dying, like my physical vessel dying. I'm more afraid of, because I want expansion, Wayne. I want to learn and expand and get past all of the bullshit in this on the earth, right? And I feel the only way that we're going to be able to expand and learn more about the universe and the way that things work. Yeah, we can expand here, but I'm talking a different kind of expansion, somewhere where we can retrieve our memories and know what's going on and have information readily available to give us, that we have to get off of this earth. We can't keep coming back here because it's just wiping us every time, and then we don't get as far as we could be. Imagine if we were able to remember uh, our lives in a concise and precise way. You know how evolved we would be as a spiritual being, Wayne? That would mean that we wouldn't have to repeat all of the bullshit nonsense that we go through every single lifetime. We could just skip that because we've already done it. We would already know.
So what I hear you saying, Ryder, is the fear is, and it's a valid fear, by the way, that at the moment of physical death, that the transcendence of consciousness will not be intact, that will somehow, the lifetime of experience gained will be taken away, in which then you just merely walk, as you're at that point, you're an automaton.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's very valid, because that is the question. Is consciousness transmuted at that moment of physical death? Now, medical science will tell you what people are seeing with the light is that they're actually seeing their cells, their neurons imploding. Boom, boom. And you're seeing the physical aspects as those neurons are firing off, exploding, imploding. And that's what you're seeing as the tunnel of light. And at that point, when the brain finally becomes, after points of starvation of consciousness, I mean, oxygen, that the last essence of brain activity, which sometimes can be 20 minutes after physical death, is the only thing you have to look forward to. Now, let me expand on that. There is the belief that in that moment of physical death, you're living eons. So I agree with you. And it is the great question. The Chinese government is spending great deal of money and investment in trying to be able to capture the essence of the soul. They contend that if you can capture the essence of the soul, you now have the perpetual motion machine. You have a never-ending source of energy.
I honestly believe they already have that, Wayne. They've
Right?
had
Well,
that
thank you.
technology. They've had that technology for a long time. Soul transfer and consciousness transfer technology.
Hummingbird, I'd agree. She said, Hummingbird 8700 says, I didn't see the light when I died. I felt great peace. I've had 5 of my own, and yes, every time that I have just about crossed the barrier, it has never been frightful. It's, in fact, it's the only thing I know how I express it is like wrapping yourself in a warm blanket coming out of the dryer. You ever had
Right.
that feeling? It's
Oh
just,
yeah.
it's warm and it's comforting.
But here's the thing, Wayne, is that warm and that comfort a trap?
I
Right.
don't know. It's a good question, because, I've had Lilith visit me and kiss me twice, and it drained me of every bit of my body warmth for hours. I was cold, and this happened in late spring, so it was warm. So I don't know. A lot of people have told me that they have experienced death as a coldness.
Yeah, and I had Michael Lee Hill on my show the other day, and he actually met the Council of Seven, the Council of Light, and Council of Dark. Um, and he says that the easiest way that they get you to come into their circle and come into their fold is with love, compassion, light,
Now, see,
right?
that sucks
It
because
does.
that it implies that the afterlife is a deception within itself.
I think that that's what we're looking at, Wayne. In all honesty, and
And
I
I
know.
think you're right. Listen, there are times in my meditation, there's actually times when I have been outside my body. I've had to take on a warrior mentality because I have found that there are entities on the other side that are not friendly. And they look at us as, well, as fodder, because you're really the newbie coming out of the realm. And who knows if the big net's there and they're just, scooping us up and saying, sucker.
Yeah, we're a food source to them, Wayne, and you know this, and a lot of people, know this. They feed on our energy, and they feed on our fear. They feed off of us in every way. They feed off of our happiness. They feed off of our fear. They feed off of our gratitude. It's an all encompassing. They just feed on energy. That's they're a parasite, and they just feed off of everyone.
A lot of people say that, if you go over there with this love and forgiveness, that is more of a human being trait than it is a spiritual essence trait. Because we assume that spirituality is equivalent to compassion, love, care, empathy, etc. And we're assuming that that is the standard for all spirits on the other side. And that, I think, is a sucker's bet.
Yep, that's the deception.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
that's where they get you, because the light is just as deceiving as anything else, And I think it was you that said this in one of your shows a while back, maybe 6, 7 months or a year ago, is that we need to go into the darkness, right? Because that's what we're born out of. We're born out of darkness, and that's where we have to go back into.
Ryder, you can't see it, neither can the audience, but I have a whiteboard over here on the other side, and I'll just read it to you. This is, I guess this is now 12 years old. I haven't ever erased it. I wrote that this plane of existence is the dark. Light is artificial. The darkness consumes energy. Light, the two types of light is that you have a dark light and a white light. Now, the contention is this: even in the Bible, it gives us the first essence that light is the deception, because it says that in the beginning was darkness. Then darkness is the natural state of things. So why should I be afraid of the dark? If it is, in fact, the natural state of things, and that light is then an artificial construct that we're told to go to the light, therein lies the trap, because the light is artificial. Anyway.
Yes, 100%, Wayne. You hit it the nail on the head. I feel like we've cracked the code here today.
We've gone over and you've made me feel better. I tell you, I really was feeling pretty low when we started on this, but it's true. In fact, as I wrote, that the perception is that you want to be a being of light, but actually you're a being of darkness. What you are is that you are experiencing the light construct, and it got you trapped here. What you don't understand is that your true essence is darkness. It's not to be feared. It's not to be equated with evil, lack of knowledge. It's just the opposite. And unfortunately, our whole perception is going to the false light.
Light in every way, like the light beings, the false light matrix, like you put it perfectly. The light is an all-encompassing artificial construct. Like, it's, if you go out into space, well, if you believe in space, some people don't believe in space, but if you go out into space, what do you think's out there? It would just be darkness, right?
It is all that's out there.
It's
There
like,
is a light within us. That's what makes us so
mm,
interesting as beings. If people could only remember, you enjoy it over there. It's not what you're perceiving to be. People got this false construct of a heaven, hell. That's a slave's mentality. That's reward, punishment mentality. It isn't anything like that. You are a light really unto yourself. Your essence is enough that you sustain yourself in this realm of darkness. That is the light.
yep, we have the light within all of us, and we have
We
God within
do.
all of us. We're all God.
Yes. I swear, I tell you, on the other side, we're going to come along and I'm going to see Jennifer Roberts and going to say, "Hey, Jen, how you doing? Know the light. I knew your light." You know, the same
Yeah.
thing with you, Ryder. We're going to know, we'll know each other by the essence of our light. I mean, you're going to see a light over there. You're going to go, "No freaking way. Do I even want to go over that direction?"
Mm.
Perfectly normal. Smart too, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, just based
This
off
has been
of,
fun,
yeah.
Ryder. This has been an absolutely what I would call a titillating, stimulating mental journey. It is, and with a heavy dose of spirituality on the side.
Thank you so much, Wayne. I appreciate you for letting me on your show, and I hope everyone really enjoyed it. And
I
please
think
watch it.
so.
Please watch it as many times as you want. I'm sure that you'll find some other things in there, because it was a lot of information for people to kind of take on all at one time. But your audience is really advanced, and I know that they can handle it. And I appreciate everyone, and I appreciate you, Wayne, for bringing me on and letting me share this information. Because if this would have happened to me, 2 or 3 years ago, and I wouldn't have had this kind of outlet on your channel, it would have just imploded upon me. And who knows, where I would be right now. I'd probably be in a gutter somewhere, like, oh my God, I can't believe, you know what I mean? Like, it just
You
overpowered me.
always have a open invitation, my friend. Your generation is in a unique place. The boomers had their own situation, but where you're coming into your own now is an opportunity to bring what I think is a next level of peeling the onion. And that's why I encourage all these channels. Uh, you are exactly what we need, and it's fresh insights like you just presented. Thank you for your hard work. I mean, to put that down into a presentation is laborious, and anyone who's done it, you know. And it is the light within what you had. It is a code breaker. So people should listen to that.
Yes,
You
thank you
should be
so
at
much.
1,000 plus. You should be at 10,000. You and Nina and Jennifer and the rest of them. I mean, you have a message, and it's one that there needs to be more given to your voice.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, Wayne. And yeah, if people would like to come over to my channel, I do only do a video once a week on Tuesdays at 6 p.m., because that's really all that I have time for. And believe it or not, it's difficult just to do one show a week. So I applaud you, Wayne, for doing one almost 5 days a week. I couldn't imagine the time and effort that you've put into creating your show. So I appreciate your content, and I appreciate you being on here every day and giving people an outlet to relate to and do their thing. I watch your shows all the time, and
I'm going to get you on the radio show because we can have a even more broader conversation, because there's a lot of elements in play right now. There are things in play that have never been at the table before. And, you know, it's like when you play poker with a regular group, you get to know those people. You almost get an idea how they're going to bet. But when there is a new player, in this case, we have several new players, no one knows them and no one knows what they're going to do to the game. And that's where we are. I know it's an extended metaphor, but y'all get it.
yeah, our future is going to get wild and crazy here for us. It's going to be a rough ride
Yeah.
leading up to 2030. I think it's going to.
We're in for it.
We people think that we've seen crazy so far. We haven't seen the
Mm-mm,
half of it yet.
mm-mm. Nope, nope. That's why I was glad in my youth I took all that LSD, you know. Because when it comes, I'm going to go, yeah, I've seen something like that familiar back in the 70s. Anyway, Ryder, much love to you, my friend. Much success. I'm going to have you back on. Folks, think about subscribing, because this is, I think, part of the expansion of this group is minds and souls like Ryder Lee, Jennifer, Nina. There's just so many of them that we've got to support the visions that they are getting, the downloads, because within those can hold the secret to maybe what you've been seeking. And sometimes it's just the small things that unlocks the door. So Ryder, stay with me as we get out. Folks, I won't be on tomorrow. I'm going to take care of whatever the world this is, but I shall return. And much love to you all. You are the best. Thank you. Y'all continue to sustain me. I have to say that, all of you do. And much of your energy as well, Ryder. All right, everyone. BOSTO, peace out. We'll see you later. All right,
Thank you,
bye-bye.
guys.